4 Name-Calling Birds. Written by Tuesday Savage, produced by Trouble Twins Publishing. Chapter 1. Hero Joiglee leaned back in his office chair, staring at his laptop screen as if it had personally insulted him. His inbox was a parade of cheery, Christmas-themed emails, most of them asking for extraordinary holiday magic or an unforgettable experience. And most annoying, I saw that video with the chickens. I'd like something similar. But it was the latest request from Whetstone Solutions, a tech startup known for their over-the-top parties, that was giving Hero a headache. They'd heard about his 12 days of Christmas-themed parties, and they wanted in on the action. They wanted calling birds. Specifically, 4 of them, to perform during their holiday-themed Zoom meeting. And not just any calling birds. Birds that would sing traditional Christmas carols to delight and inspire our team. Hero sighed and pushed his chair away from the desk. Sure, he muttered to himself. Just find 4 singing birds 2 weeks before Christmas. For a party in 3 days. No problem. His initial research had been discouraging. The closest actual calling birds, European song thrushes, were impossible to source on short notice. He'd briefly considered hiring a quartet of actors dressed as birds, but that idea had been vetoed by Whetstone Solutions, who insisted on authenticity. Grabbing his coat, Hero decided he needed to clear his head. A jog at Aurora Quest Park usually helped him think, or at least burn off some of the stress, and it wouldn't hurt to get some fresh air after being cooped up all week, dealing with the fallout from the library's damages. The air was crisp, and the ground was dusted with a fresh layer of light snow as Hero set off down the park's jogging trail. His breath puffed in clouds as the ice cleats on his sneakers crunched along the icy path. But instead of finding clarity, his thoughts spiraled further into frustration. Maybe I could teach pigeons to sing? No, too much time. Maybe someone's trained parrots, but that's ridiculous. Or maybe, whump! Hero's train of thought and his body came to a crashing halt as he collided with someone coming around a blind corner. The impact sent him sprawling backward, his arms pinwheeling for balance before he landed on his backside in a nearby snowbank. Seriously? Came a familiar voice, half exasperated, half amused. Hero blinked up to see Dixie Helia, her fiery red ponytail spilling out from under a knitted beanie. She was brushing snow off her khaki jacket and glaring at him like he just ruined her Christmas. Dixie. Hero scrambled to his feet, offering a sheepish grin. I didn't see you there. No kidding, Dixie said, shaking snow from her gloves. You're lucky I didn't spill my coffee. She held up a thermos, miraculously intact despite their collision. What's got you so distracted, Joiglee? Running late for your next disaster? Hero sighed, brushing snow off his coat. I wish. It's this new gig. A company wants 4 calling birds for a Zoom party. I've been racking my brain all morning trying to figure out where to find them, and I've only got 3 days to find them. Dixie raised an eyebrow. Calling birds? Like from the song? Exactly, Hero said. But do you have any idea how hard it is to find actual singing birds? On short notice? In December? Dixie smirked. I can imagine, but maybe you're overthinking it. Why not use what's available? Hero tilted his head, intrigued. What do you mean? Well, Dixie said, gesturing toward the town's small animal shelter across the park, visible through the trees. We've got 4 parrots at the shelter. They belong to an old sailor who passed away a few months ago. They're a little eccentric, but they're vocal. Could be worth a shot. She smiled. They sing songs. Not Christmas songs, but songs. Parrots. Hero's eyes lit up. They can talk? More than you'd want them to, Dixie replied dryly. They pick up phrases like sponges, but if you're desperate, they might just save your bacon. Hero's grin widened. Dixie, you're a lifesaver. Don't thank me yet, Dixie said with a chuckle. You haven't met them. Chapter 2. Hero followed Dixie across the snowy park, his breath puffing in small clouds as he tried to keep up with her brisk pace. So tell me about these parrots, Hero said. They're colorful in more ways than one, Dixie replied. They came to the shelter a few months ago after their owner passed away. The guy was a retired sailor, and let's just say he had a rather salty vocabulary. Hero's eyebrows shot up. Salty? Like R-rated salty? Let's just say you might want to do some editing before putting them in front of a corporate Zoom meeting, Dixie said with a smirk. But they're smart. They know full songs, shanties mostly, and they're definitely entertaining. I have been working with them to try and correct their language, but, she sighed, they've had a lot of years of talking trash. Hero said, beginning to have second thoughts about it. She looked up at Hero and gave him an encouraging smile. It's getting better. It is, I promise. They reached the small, gray, squat building of the Aurora Quest Animal Shelter. The warm smell of hay, industrial cleaner, and faint traces of animal feed greeted them as Dixie held the door open for Hero. Welcome to my second home, she said, flipping on the lights. The shelter was quiet, save for the occasional bark or meow from the back. Dixie led Hero down a corridor to a room labeled Birds. As soon as she opened the door, a cacophony of squawks and whistles erupted. Ahoy there! One voice shrieked. Landlubber, another screeched, followed by a loud wolf whistle. Pieces of 8! Pieces of 8! Woohoo! Fancy lady! Followed by a whistle, then, take it off! Matey, that's not nice, Dixie scolded the bird who'd told her to strip. The bird whistled again but didn't say anything else. Hero froze in the doorway, his jaw dropping. 4 brightly colored parrots were perched on a series of custom-built stands, each of them bobbing and preening with the energy of caffeinated toddlers. Meet the crew, Dixie said, gesturing to the birds. That's Captain, Blue, Jolly, and Matey. Captain? Hero repeated, staring at the largest parrot, a majestic macaw with vibrant blue and gold feathers. The bird cocked its head and squawked, Captain's orders. Oh boy, Hero muttered. Dixie laughed. They're not shy, that's for sure. But they're healthy, well-behaved for the most part, and they need a home. You'd be doing us both a favor. Hero approached cautiously, his eyes darting between the parrots. Jolly, a red and green Amazon parrot, flapped its wings and let out a surprisingly melodic whistle. Okay, Hero said, nodding. I think I can work with this. They're charming in their own, chaotic way. Charming, huh? Dixie said with a grin. Just wait until they start arguing with each other, or singing sea shanties at full volume. Hero ignored her teasing and turned to Dixie. How do I get them ready for the gig? I don't suppose they know Jingle Bells? Dixie shrugged. You'd have to train them, but they pick things up quickly. Just keep it simple, and maybe keep the microphone on mute until you're sure they're safe. Hero nodded, feeling a spark of hope for the first time all day. Thanks, Dixie. I owe you one. I have some errands to run, but I'll be back after lunch to pick them up. Dixie smiled, crossing her arms. I'll hold you to that. I'll have their stuff ready and show you some of the tricks they know and how to look after them. Great. Hero and Dixie left the bird room and Dixie walked him back to the front door. I'll see you later. Dixie waved as Hero walked back across the park, headed for home. Good luck, Joiglee. You're gonna need it. Chapter 3. Hero returned to the shelter later that afternoon, armed with a mixture of optimism and trepidation. He'd spent the morning brainstorming ways to integrate the parrots into Whetstone Solutions' holiday Zoom meeting, while ignoring the growing knot of worry in his stomach. So far, his track record of hosting holiday parties featuring live birds wasn't great. He had to admit, though, that the publicity from the video from the Everything French Club party had given his business a much-needed boost, and he now had a serious backlog of calls and emails. He might even have to hire an assistant to keep up with it all. But he had to get through this next event in one piece first. You're back, Dixie greeted him with a knowing grin as he stepped inside the shelter. She had a travel crate on the counter, along with a bag of bird supplies. A giant cage sat on the floor in pieces. I was beginning to think you'd chickened out. Hero chuckled weakly. Thought about it, but the client specifically asked for birds, not my dignity, so here I am. Dixie laughed and gestured to the travel crate. Inside, the 4 parrots were already settled, eyeing Hero with a mix of suspicion and curiosity. I've packed their essentials, Dixie said, ticking items off a list. Food, water dishes, a spray bottle for misting if they get too dry, and, most importantly, their favorite treats. Positive reinforcement goes a long way with these guys. Got it? Hero said, nodding as if he actually knew what he was doing. Dix nudged the cage with her foot. Some assembly required, but it's not too hard. If you have any trouble, call her and I can send someone over, or come myself. Hero looked down at the pile of metal mesh panels. I think I can handle it. I used to build gym equipment in my former life. Can't be too different. I suppose not. Hero thought he heard a twinge of disappointment in Dixie's voice, but figured it was just his overactive imagination at work again. She was probably just sad the birds were leaving. And here's a cheat sheet of the phrases they already know, Dixie added, handing him a notebook filled with scrawled notes. Hero scanned the list, his eyes widening at some of the more colorful phrases. Yeah. We're gonna need to workshop these. Dixie smirked. Like I said, they're a work in progress. I did include instructions in the back on how to correct them and what kind of treats work best to redirect their language. Excellent. I think I've got everything I need then. Hero picked up a couple of mesh panels. I'll just load the cage first. Dixie gave him a hand and they had all the birds' luggage loaded in no time. Dixie gave the birds one last goodbye treat. Hero lifted the crate carefully, grinning at the birds inside. All right, team. Let's go make some holiday magic. The parrots squawked in unison, and as Hero carried them out the door to his waiting van, he could have sworn Captain said, "Good luck, sucker." Back at his studio, Hero set up a temporary parrot station in the corner, complete with perches, a small tree for them to climb, and a sound-dampening curtain he'd hastily rigged to muffle any unexpected outbursts. "Okay, team," Hero said, opening the crate inside the giant parrot enclosure. He wasn't taking any chances of them escaping when he opened the crate. "Let's get to know each other." The parrots hopped out one by one, each bird immediately exploring its new surroundings. Captain took the high ground, perching on the tallest stand and surveying the room like he owned it, and immediately pooped on the fresh newspaper Hero had laid out on the floor. Blue, a smaller macaw, flapped up to a fake wreath and started nibbling at the decorations through the bars. Hero had a slight anxiety attack, imagining the bird dying from eating something he shouldn't have only a few hours after he'd taken over their care. Dixie would never speak to him again if he let anything happen to the birds she was so clearly fond of. Hero left the cage, careful to make sure the door was closed and latched securely, then hurried over to the wreath Blue was nibbling on. He moved it out of reach. Jerk! Blue screeched at him. Hero blinked from the volume as it made his ears ring, but remembered what Dixie had told him. The bird needed to be corrected right away if his manners were going to improve. "That's not nice, Blue." Jolly and Matey stuck closer together, chattering in what sounded like a mix of gibberish and pirate slang. Hero did a walk around the outside of the cage, moving anything close to it, just in case. Blue and Captain watched him with keen eyes. Certain there was nothing left within reach, Hero went back into the cage to get acquainted with his new co-workers. "Right," Hero said, clapping his hands. "First things first, no cursing. We're a family-friendly operation now." Captain cocked his head and squawked. "Family-friendly, my fat." "Nope." Hero cut him off, quickly tossing a treat toward the bird to distract him. Training the parrots turned out to be even more chaotic than Hero had been led to believe. While they were quick learners, they were also easily distracted, prone to bickering with each other, and had a knack for immediately repeating every single one of Hero's frustrated mutterings, but not what he wanted to teach them. Also, Captain liked to perch on his shoulder and nibble on his ears, which Hero found more than a little disconcerting. He saw the size of the chunk the large parrot had easily carved from a watermelon rind back at the shelter. "Focus, Captain," Hero said, holding up a treat. "Say, jingle bells." Captain stared at him for a long moment, then let out a screeching rendition of 15 men on a dead man's chest. Yo-ho-ho? "That's close," Hero muttered, scribbling notes on a pad. Jolly, meanwhile, had started imitating Hero's attempts to direct them, calling out, "Nope, nope, focus, stop that right now," in a perfect mimic of his voice, and then screeching in what Hero could only think of as derisive laughter. By the time the sun set, Hero was equal parts exhausted and impressed. The parrots had learned snippets of Jingle Bells, though it was more of a mashup with sea shanties than the classic carol, and it sounded suspiciously like they were saying jingle balls instead of bells. Still, they had potential, if he could keep their colorful commentary in check. As Hero leaned back in the chair he'd brought into the cage, Captain flew down to perch on his shoulder, cocking his head as if to say, "Not bad, kid." "Not bad at all," Hero muttered. tossing Captain another treat to lure him away from his tender earlobe. But he knew the real test was yet to come. He still had to get them shipshape for the party. Chapter 4. The morning of the Whetstone Solutions holiday Zoom meeting arrived with Hero feeling more like a pirate wrangler than a party planner. He had spent the previous day refining the parrots' performance, alternating between moments of triumph and exasperation as they veered off script in creative and often extremely inappropriate ways. "All right, team," Hero said, standing before the parrots' enclosure like a general addressing his troops. He had set up their display in a corner of his studio that he decorated to look like a festive holiday stage. Tinsel and fairy lights framed the backdrop. A small Christmas tree twinkled in the corner, and a banner reading, "Happy Holidays from Whetstone Solutions," stretched above the parrots' perches, but far out of their reach. The parrots stared back at him, Captain looking particularly unimpressed as he preened his feathers and pooped. "Today's the big day," Hero continued. "You've got your cues, you've got your treats, and you're gonna wow them with jingle bells. No sea shanties, no cursing, just holiday cheer. Just the way we did it last night. Got it?" Captain let out a low squawk that Hero decided to interpret as agreement. Hero took a deep breath and adjusted his holiday sweater. The client had sent it to him as part of the event theme, and it featured a cartoon Santa dabbing under a shower of snowflakes. He thought it was ridiculous, but it beat the parrot poop-streaked hoodie he'd been wearing for the last 2 days to protect himself from being pooped on when the birds were being disagreeable and Captain's ear nibbles. He set up the Zoom call, tested his camera and microphone, and triple-checked the sound-dampening curtains around the parrots' enclosure. The client had requested that Hero stay on mute until the parrot's performance to avoid any unintentional distractions. What could possibly go wrong? The meeting began smoothly enough. The Whetstone team appeared on Hero's monitor in a grid of cheery faces, each framed by festive backgrounds featuring fireplaces, snowy landscapes, or oversized company logos. The host, a woman named Sandra wearing a Santa hat and a dazzlingly bright smile, kicked things off with a round of introductions and some light-hearted banter. Hero kept his microphone muted, watching nervously as the parrots fidgeted on their perches. Captain flapped his wings, causing a puff of tinsel to flutter to the floor, and Matey began muttering under his breath, something about landlubbers and walking the plank. Hero tossed them treats. "Shh! Be good now." "And now," Sandra announced, her voice full of holiday cheer, "it's time for a very special treat. Please welcome Hero Joiglee and his 4 calling birds." Hero unmuted his microphone and stepped into the frame, forcing a confident smile. "Happy holidays, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm thrilled to introduce you to our feathered performers, Captain, Blue, Jolly, and Matey. They've been working hard to bring you some festive cheer." He stepped aside, and the camera panned to the parrot's enclosure. Captain cocked his head, his sharp eyes glinting, while Blue let out a loud whistle. "Take it away, team," Hero said, clicking the treat dispenser to signal their cue. To his relief, the parrots launched into a recognizable rendition of Jingle Bells with no mispronounced words. Sure, it was punctuated by occasional whistles and off-key squawks, but it was undeniably festive and the correct song. The Zoom attendees clapped and cheered, their faces lighting up with delight. "This is wonderful," Sandra said, beaming into the camera. But the victory was short-lived. As Hero reached for another handful of treats, Captain abruptly veered off script. "Jingle balls," the macaw screeched, his voice ringing loud and clear through the microphone. Hero froze, his hand hovering mid-air as the parrots erupted into chaos. "Jingle balls, jingle balls," Blue echoed, flapping his wings excitedly. 15 men on a dead man's chest," Jolly added, cackling with glee. "Landlubbers," Matey shouted, bobbing his head. "Where's the rum? Woohoo! Hey lady, take it off." Matey screeched as he peered directly into the camera at Sandra. The Zoom attendees dissolved into laughter, several of them doubling over in their chairs. Hero scrambled to regain control. Sorry about that, folks. They, have a mind of their own sometimes. Let's bring it back to Jingle Bells, guys." But the parrots were having none of it. Captain launched into a monologue that included several choice phrases Hero hadn't even known they'd learned, and had certainly not been in the notebook Dixie had given him. while Matty provided a dramatic soundtrack of pirate-like growls and swear words. Just as Hero was considering muting the microphone and calling it a day, one of the attendees, an older man with a weathered face, leaned closer to his camera. "Wait a minute," the man said, his voice cutting through the laughter. "Did that bird just say, 'Where's the rum?' and 'Hey lady, take it off'?" Hero blinked, unsure how to respond. Sorry, yes, I've been trying to train them out of it." The man's eyes widened. "That's exactly what my Uncle Joe used to say. He was a sailor. He had parrots just like those. I lost touch with him years ago." Captain squawked. "Uncle Joe's got the rum. Let's play poker." The man gasped. "That's him. Those are Joe's parrots." Captain hopped closer to the monitor and cocked his head. "Billy? Silly Billy?" The man whooped with joy. "You remember me?" He wiped tears from his face. "Captain, it's me, Silly Billy." The laughter in the Zoom call faded as the attendees realized what was happening. Billy explained that his family had lost touch with Uncle Joe years ago and had always wondered what happened to him and his beloved birds. Hero, sensing a chance to salvage the situation, stepped back into the frame. "Well, it looks like we've made a connection even more special than we planned. I'm sorry to be the one to tell you this, but your Uncle Joe died a few months ago. The parrots have been at the Aurora Quest Animal Shelter since then." "Do you know what happened to him?" Billy asked. "No, sorry, but Dixie Hellia at the shelter might know more. She's the one who's been looking after the birds," Hero told him. "Can you stay on after the call? I want to make sure these birds are reunited with their family," Billy said. "Sure, no problem," Hero told him, glad that things were working out. The attendees erupted into applause, and Sandra, the host, wiped a tear from her eye. "What a beautiful holiday moment. Thank you, Hero, for bringing us something truly unforgettable." As the meeting wrapped up, Hero muted his microphone and slumped into his chair, the parrot squawking contentedly behind him. "Well, Captain," Hero muttered, tossing the bird a treat. "Looks like you saved the day, sort of." Captain tilted his head and squawked. "Good luck, sucker." Hero laughed and tossed him a treat. Chapter 5. The Zoom call ended with Billy promising to come to Aurora Quest on the weekend to collect the birds, leaving Hero with a mix of relief and exhaustion. He leaned back in his chair, staring at the now quiet monitor. Captain and his crew had retreated to their perches, preening and squawking softly among themselves, clearly satisfied with their chaotic performance. Hero glanced at his phone and decided to call Dixie. She deserved to hear the good news firsthand. The line rang twice before Dixie's voice came through, light and teasing as ever. "Joiglee, how's my feathered flock treating you? Anyone lost an ear yet?" "Not quite," Hero replied, chuckling. "But get this, during the Zoom meeting, one of the guys recognized the parrots. They belonged to his Uncle Joe, apparently a sailor with a penchant for poker and questionable commentary." "No way," Dixie said, her tone brightening with surprise. "That's incredible. I knew those birds had stories to tell, but I didn't think it would lead to a family reunion." Hero smiled, feeling a rare moment of pride. "It's all thanks to you. If you hadn't told me about them, I would have been stuck with some lame animatronic birds or worse. No birds at all." "Well," Dixie said, her voice softening, "it sounds like you're the one who made the real magic happen. I'm just glad those parrots found their way back to someone who loves them." "Speaking of which," Hero added, "Billy, Uncle Joe's nephew, is planning to adopt them. He asked if you'd help with the process. I figured you'd want to be part of it. He says he's going to come and pick them up on the weekend. I gave him your contact info at the shelter." "Absolutely," Dixie said, the smile in her voice unmistakable. "I'll handle all the paperwork and make sure they're set up for a smooth transition." "You did good, Joiglee." Hero laughed. "Don't get used to it. This might be my first actual win." "Hey," Dixie teased, "you've got a knack for turning disasters into something unforgettable. That's a rare talent, you know." Hero leaned back, feeling a warmth he hadn't expected. "Thanks, Dixie. That means a lot." "So, you want to bring them back to the shelter now that their gig is over?" Dixie asked. Hero stared at the birds in the cage for a long moment. "Nah, they've kinda grown on me, and it's only for a few days. No sense in disrupting them any more than necessary." "No, if you're okay with it, I'm okay with it," Dixie said, sounding pleased with Hero's decision. There was a brief pause on the line before Dixie spoke again, her tone playful. So, what's next on the 12 Days of Chaos tour? 5 golden rings? 10 lords a-leaping? Or are we skipping straight to 12 drummers drumming? Don't jinx it, Hero groaned. I'm hoping for something simple next time. Maybe a nice, quiet holiday dinner. Dixie laughed, her voice ringing like a bell. With you involved? Not a chance. Hero laughed. That's fair. He took a deep breath then, before he could lose his nerve, asked, Would you like to have dinner with me? Hero heard Dixie's sharp intake of breath, and he rushed on. I mean, I'd like to do something nice to thank you for helping me out after I ran you over in the park. I would love to. How about Vesper's pizza joint? Dixie said. Really? Hero said, not believing his luck. It's good. Have you been living under a rock since you moved to town? It's the best pizza place in town, Dixie exclaimed. I do believe it is the only pizza place in town, Hero replied, smiling. You got me there. Dixie laughed. Great. Tomorrow? Hero asked, holding his breath. Not tomorrow night, Dixie said. Hero's heart fell. Oh, but I can do lunch tomorrow if that works. Hero thought he detected a hint of hopefulness in her voice. Hero felt a rush of pleasure. It works. See you there. As they said their goodbyes, Hero hung up with a rare sense of satisfaction. For once, the chaos had led to something meaningful. A reunion, a moment of joy, and maybe even a little redemption for his unconventional methods. And a lunch date. He glanced at Captain, who was now nibbling on a treat. All right, team, Hero said, addressing the parrots. Let's call this one a win, but no more shanties for a while, okay? Captain squawked. Jingle balls. Hero groaned and laughed at the same time. Of course. Baby steps. With the day's chaos behind him, Hero turned his attention to cleaning up and preparing for whatever came next. He knew better than to expect smooth sailing, but for now, he was content to bask in the glow of a job, mostly well done, and not getting arrested. If you enjoyed this story, please consider buying a copy, like, subscribe, and check the playlist for the next episode. Thanks for listening. Tuesday Savage.